This show contains adult content and is brought to you by the letter H.
It's back-to-back episodes of Sonic X, only on 4Kids TV.
It's an all-new Lilo and Stitch the series next Saturday on ABC Kids.
As we pay tribute to this batch of defunct kids channels on this episode of Discontinued Nostalgia, let's start off this video by mourning the loss of the most recent channel to pull the plug, Universal Kids. In the second ever episode of this series, I had YouTuber Lula Loopsy on the channel, where she provided an in-depth analysis of Universal Kids' predecessor, PBS Kids Sprout. However, since that video was uploaded, the cable channel has finally thrown in the white towel. So yeah, here we are again. Universal Kids was originally launched as PBS Kids Sprout in 2005, a preschool-focused channel created in collaboration between several entertainment companies. The network emerged following the closure of PBS's original 24-hour PBS Kids channel in 2005, which aimed to provide round-the-clock children's programming. On October 20th, 2004, PBS announced its partnership with Comcast, HIT Entertainment, and Sesame Workshop to create a dedicated cable network for preschool audiences. This initiative sought to strengthen the competitive standing of all parties involved while maintaining PBS's commitment to educational content. The PBS Kids Sprout brand debuted on April 4th, 2005 as a video-on-demand service before expanding into a fully fledged 24 cable channel on September 26, 2005, effectively replacing the previous PBS Kids channel. At launch, PBS Kids Sprout was available to approximately 16 million households through Comcast and inside cable providers, a number which will increase over time. While PBS Kids Sprout maintained its educational focus, it operated under a commercial-supported model, setting it apart from the main PBS network, where traditional television advertisements were shown in limited quantities between programs, specifically targeting parents and caregivers rather than children. And due to this ad-supported format, the network did not include the standard funding credits typically seen on PBS programming. In 2009, the Wiggles transitioned from the Playhouse Disney block to PBS Kids Sprout. This move coincided with the launch of the new morning block, Sprout's Wiggly Waffle, hosted by the popular group. This decision came amid rising competition from another musical group, the Imagination Movers, whose new show premiered on Disney Channel in 2008. By the time the Wiggles debuted on Sprout in August of 2009, a month later, the network underwent a branding change, shortening its name from PBS Kids Sprout to simply Sprout. However, PBS's ownership still reflected in on-screen graphics until November 2013. That would be when NBC Universal took full control of the network. Under NBCU's leadership, Sprout began investing heavily in other original programming to better compete with other cable rivals. It also supplied NBCU's preschool blocks, NBC Kids and Mi Telemundo, which had replaced the recently discontinued Qubo block. It was around this time where it was also the beginning of the decline. By 2016, NBC Universal announced that it would discontinue its Saturday morning blocks in favor of a new block produced by Litton Entertainment, known as The More You Know. You probably recognize that phrase from all the memes, and NBC sought to revive the brand as a morning block aimed at adolescents. With less incentive to produce preschool content, Sprout's future was already in doubt. A few months later, in August 2016, NBC Universal acquired DreamWorks Animation. Following this acquisition, Deidre Brennan, formerly of Canadian media company Chorus Entertainment, was appointed president of Sprout in January of 2017, replacing Sandy Wax. Just a few months later, it was announced that Sprout would be rebranded as Universal Kids, launching on September 9th, 2017. The new identity introduced a drastically different lineup targeting older children and preteens while retaining preschool programming under the Sprout brand from 3 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Daily Time. At launch, Universal Kids introduced a slate of original unscripted series including Bear Grylls, Survival School, and Top Chef Jr. NBC Universal also planned to make significant investments in original content over the next 3 years, including scripted programming. DreamWorks also played a key role in Universal Kids' programming strategy, with the network securing linear TV premieres of DreamWorks Netflix series, such as All Hail King Julian and Dragons Riders of Berk. Industry experts saw this integration as an opportunity for NBC Universal to compete with major networks across multiple platforms. Despite these efforts, Universal Kids struggled to maintain an audience. According to IndieWire, they reported a 30% decline in viewership in 2017, followed by a 73% drop in 2018. Its decline was the result of two major factors. First, the abrupt shift from a 24-hour preschool channel to a youth-oriented network. This would alienate its foundational audience, and because of that, they would just switch to another channel like Nick or Disney Jr. Secondly, and you might already know this by now, the decline reflected a broader trend in children's media, as traditional cable networks lost relevance in favor of digital and streaming platforms by this time, a shift that the Universal Kids brand has failed to adapt to. As a result, by 2019, Universal Kids announced that it would halt programming, and from this point forward, the channel essentially was on autopilot, airing primarily acquired shows, many of which were from DreamWorks, and gradually shifting back towards preschool content. This is probably the reason why the network changed their logo from a sleek looking one to a more preschooling looking one in 2019. But this move wouldn't really bring back viewers. As of 2024, Variety ranked Universal Kids 141st out of 154th place in cable and broadcast networks based on Nielsen ratings, averaging 20,000 viewers, which, wow, that's pretty low for cable standards, I'm not gonna lie. Right below it is Disney XD, which only has 18,000 viewers. Foretelling, maybe? I don't know. Looking at Universal Kids' current schedule, it primarily consists of shows like Trolls, All Hail King Julian, Masha and the Bear, Flugels, Ruff Ruff, Tweet and Dave, and Cocomelon? Okay, you know what? This channel is a far cry from what it used to be. I think we should just burn it to the ground. In January 2025, NBC Universal announced that Universal Kids would shut down on March 6, 2025. A company spokesperson emphasized that NBC Universal would remain committed to family entertainment, but it will focus on investing in Illumination, DreamWorks Animation, and kid-focused content on Peacock. The closure coincided with Comcast's decision to spin off most of NBC Universal's cable properties into a separate publicly traded company. These channels include the USA Network, CNBC, MSNBC, Oxygen, E! Network, Sci-Fi, and the Golf Channel. An announcement that notably excluded Universal Kids from this plan. Bravo, along with NBC and Telemundo's local stations, will be the only networks to remain under NBC Universal's main corporate umbrella. It's a bombshell to hear that so many well-known channels are soon to be spun off. Like, I'm well aware that cable's been on a decline, can't you tell? But seeing the future of these huge channels in limbo, it's just surreal to see. Get ready for another 10 installments of defunct TV channels, I guess.
We'll be right back after this.
Guys, every day massive companies are getting hacked left, right, and center. Your personal information, emails, passwords, and even financial data could already be out there on the dark web. And the worst part is, these companies rarely face any real consequences. Earlier this year, I've started getting robocalls and spam emails from places and businesses I've never been to or have heard of. Often picking up these calls will have someone on the line asking for some form of identification in a really convincing fashion. And while you can block these numbers, they just keep coming back. But thanks to today's sponsor Aura, I don't have to worry about that. Aura helps track down data brokers selling your information through the web and send opt-out requests on your behalf, which they must legally do. Once they do that, you'll stop seeing your data floating around the internet and receive less spam phone calls. They also send you alerts if your information gets exposed. So in the event that someone tries to use your data to access something or create something in your name, Aura lets you know fast. Plus, Aura includes antivirus protection, a VPN, and a password manager to provide extra layers of security and privacy. If the worst happens, Aura backs you up with $5 million in identity theft insurance. If you want to try it out for yourself, go to aura.com/AmusingLuis and try it free for 14 days. That's more than enough time for Aura to find out if your data is out there. Don't wait for a data breach to happen. Sign up today and let Aura handle the rest. With that said, let's continue the video.
The break's over. Now back to the show.
Hello? Yes, I am the head of the household. The financial decision maker? Could you hold on for a sec? Yeah, honey.
Yeah?
It's for you.
Okay, while researching this topic, I was just going to talk about only the Boys and Girls channel, but as I kept digging through the history of the channel, there wasn't much, if I'm being honest. The whole channel is mostly lost media for the most part, but it led me to a rabbit hole on the insanity that was Fox Family worldwide. So consider this like a 4-in-1 comprehensive overview that covers all these topics. I guess we could start off in the year 1985. That year, Aussie billionaire Rupert Murdoch became a legal US citizen. This meant he now had the legal requirement to own and operate American-based television stations. Wait, what the fuck? With his knowledge, he would create a platform that will eventually develop into a media-operated fourth branch of government. Entertainment for families. Yeah. In April 1986, Fox Television Stations LLC was established, becoming the subsidiary responsible for all local Fox stations across the US. Where just 6 months later, the first 6 Fox stations launched: WNYW in New York City, WTTG in Washington, D.C., KTT-TV in Los Angeles, KRIV in Houston, WFLD in Chicago, and KDAF in Dallas. At launch, the network didn't really offer much variety. They did offer a late show, but I mean, so did the United Network, and that didn't last long. It wasn't until April 5th, 1987 when the channel did a soft relaunch into primetime with the premieres of the sitcom Married with Children and the sketch comedy series The Tracy Ullman Show. But there would be one particular cartoon that aired in the late 80s. You might have heard of it. It's The Simpsons DuckTales. It's DuckTales, what were you expecting? The show would begin airing on Fox in 1987 and would become a smash hit towards viewers. So much so that the following year, Disney purchased the independent television station KHJ-TV in Los Angeles and renamed it to KCAL-TV. Disney wanted to air DuckTales and Chip and Dale on their newly acquired station. This move angered the Fox station, and they would retaliate by removing DuckTales from all Fox affiliates. While I won't get to the whole nitty-gritty of it, this corporate drama eventually culminated in what would become the Fox Children's Network, which would later be renamed the Fox Kids Network and then just Fox Kids. Fox Kids Network launched on September 8, 1990, featuring in-house productions such as Bobby's World, Eat the Cat, and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, among many other shows. The block would also include shows produced by Saban Entertainment, Marvel Productions, Deke Entertainment, and Warner Brothers Animations. Some of these more iconic series included X-Men the Animated Series, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and Spider-Man. And throughout most of the early 1990s, Fox Kids became the leading children's programming block, and soon it would take more of the schedule. At first, the block aired for 30 minutes on weekdays and 3 hours on Saturdays. However, it eventually expanded to over 3 hours on weekdays and 4 hours on Saturdays. It seemed like nothing could stop the powerhouse. That was until Kids WB entered the scene. Launched in September 1995, Kids WB launched on WB stations and came out swinging with an all-star inaugural lineup of Animaniacs, Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, Pinky and the Brain, and Freakazoid. And just like DuckTales, Animaniacs was another show that Fox Kids lost broadcasting rights when it was moved to Kids WB. By the late 1990s, they would soon acquire the rights to Pokemon, which would unanimously make Kids WB the go-to spot for after-school cartoons. Fox Kids would attempt at having their own Pokemon in the form of Digimon, but yeah. I think Fox losing their highest rated cartoons twice led to News Corporation making some rapid decisions. In September 1996, Fox Children's Network and Saban Entertainment, which had been producing shows for the block since its launch, merged to create Fox Kids Worldwide. This merger aimed to level the playing field with their competitors, as by the mid-1990s, the children's television market was booming. So by that logic, Fox believed that this move would position them more competitively against other networks in the industry. With this new subsidiary, Fox Kids Worldwide aimed to expand beyond a programming block and into the world of cable TV. Just 8 months later, News Corporation would purchase International Family Entertainment for $1.9 billion. If you're unaware on who they are, IFE was a smaller media company founded by Pat Robertson, best known as the owner of the Family Channel. This network traces its origins back to April of 1977 as the CBN satellite network, which if I'm not mistaken, makes it one of the first cable satellite networks, predating others like Nickelodeon and the USA Network by just a few months. The network was originally run by the Christian Broadcasting Network, hence the CBN name. It primarily aired religious programming from televangelists and was home to its flagship program, The 700 Club, a show that has remained on the network to this very day like an inoperable tumor. It wasn't until the early 1980s that the network began to pivot towards a hybrid of religious and family programming, featuring classic movies, westerns, and dramas from the 1950s and 60s. By 1988, the channel was rebranded as the CBN Family Channel. However, just 2 years later, the parent company spun off the brand to the aforementioned International Family Entertainment, changing its name once again to the Family Channel. This move was made to comply with US tax laws, as CBN's non-profit status conflicted with the network's growing success. By creating IFE as a for-profit company, CBN avoided legal issues while still maintaining influence over the network. Look, I know it seems like I'm going all over the place with this topic, and, to be honest I am, but I think it's important to know where all these lines connect. Once the acquisition was complete, Fox Kids Worldwide was renamed to Fox Family Worldwide, and the Family Channel was rebranded to Fox Family Channel. Under new management, the programming schedule underwent a complete overhaul. The previous content, which catered to an older audience, was replaced with a mix of cartoons, game shows, and live-action series aimed at children, teens, and families. The only exception was the 700 Club, which was required to air 3 times a day, for ever. Despite its focus on religion and politics, this particular show felt out of place among the new program. Even today, the network has been hesitant to pause its lineup just for this one show. Despite the occasional odd breaks between broadcasts, the new Fox Family lineup did not disappoint. It featured popular shows such as Donkey Kong Country, The New Addams Family, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Goosebumps, and the Fox Kids lineup, and much more. I mean a lot more. Just look at this Wikipedia list. I'm not reading all this. Fox Family Channel also successfully established a niche with its annual seasonal programming blocks, the 13 Days of Halloween and the 25 Days of Christmas. These blocks showcase seasonal specials and movies, and they remain some of the few elements that have continued into the current format. That said, while Fox Family Worldwide had the platform and syndication rights all in order, they might have bitten off more than they can chew. Shortly after the launch of the Fox Family Channel, they announced not one, but two new children's networks, dubbed the Boys and Girls Channel, with a Z of course. That name alone just gave the platform a limited lifespan. This announcement was seen as a surprise to many as it wasn't announced previously at the Saban Summit of 1998, an event that typically outlines the brand's future plans. And even so, this was immediately met with skepticism and overall confusion. If you think about it, it seems like this was a reckless move. First and foremost, by the time Boys and Girls Channel was announced, the war on children's television was in full swing. I mean, this is late 1998 we're talking about. Dragon Ball Z had started airing on Cartoon Network for the first time, and SpongeBob was just a few months away from premiering, so the timing suggests that they were stretching themselves too thin. Many were also concerned that expanding the number of channels would negatively impact Fox Family's already low viewership, which had already declined by 35% during prime time in 1999. This drop was attributed due to a shift in more youth-oriented shows that alienated some of its core older audience, which Fox Family could not replace. Therefore, investing a significant amount of money into two new platforms seemed like a really bad idea. In spite of all this concern, Fox Family Worldwide went ahead with the plan, and on Halloween 1999, the Boys and Girls Channel was launched. According to Next TV, the lineup for the digital networks included a 2-hour parenting block in primetime, a 4-hour program block targeting 6 to 14-year-olds, and a 3-hour preschool block during the day. The plan promised that over 25% of the content would be original to the US, with over 60% of it being exclusive to the Boys and Girls Channel. In practice though, much of the lineup leaned heavily on the existing shows from the Fox and Saban libraries, including content previously exclusive to international Fox Kids channels. As for original content, to my knowledge, most of the original programming they had consisted of magazine-style shows called Boysopolis and Girlsopolis, two shows that were meant to explore issues important to real kids. There were also programs meant for parents to learn on how to be there for their kids. However, I couldn't find much footage on this, so I think this is also lost media. By late 2000, Fox Family Worldwide announced that both Boys Channel and Girls Channel would shut down on August 18th, only 10 months after the channels had launched. The reason being that by now, the market was just overpacked. CN, Nick, and Disney have already established themselves as the go-to spot for TV. You also had spin-off channels like Discovery Kids, Nicktoons, Boomerang, and even Fox Family themselves taking more eyeballs from the two new networks. But it's not like anyone was watching, or even had it to begin with. Due to the massive lack in demand from cable providers, both networks only managed to get 100,000 subscribers each, which is way more than what I have. Am I the failure? Fox Family in 2000 wasn't doing so hot either. Similarly to the Boys and Girls Channel, they too were behind in ratings, with many of their original programs failing to gain a strong following. The problem Fox Family was dealing with was that they had attempted to cater to multiple demographics at the same time. Looking through the list of former programming, a lot of it was either kids content, teen dramas, or family-oriented shows, not to mention the random cutaways to the 700 Club. It just seemed to me that the channel lacked clear direction. To make things even more confusing of a channel, they would introduce MLB games in April of 2000, perhaps done as a last-ditch effort to try to rake in ratings. But this would just last a season, as airing sports is already a costly investment. In late 2000, Fox Family Channel would introduce a new logo and graphics to signify a change in better focusing to an older audience, but by this point it was too little too late. After months of mismanagement, tensions between News Corporation and Saban Entertainment had reached a breaking point, and Saban pretty much wanted out of this relationship. He and Saban opted to force News Corp to sell its interests. However, both sides struggled to agree on a valuation, eventually saying fuck it and deciding to sell entirely to a third party. Just 7 months later, in July of 2001, it was announced that the Walt Disney Company had agreed to purchase Fox Family Worldwide from Saban and News Corp for $2.9 billion in cash, plus $2.3 billion in debt, giving the mouse control of the Fox Family Channel, Saban Entertainment, the nationwide Fox Kids channels, and the rights to over 6,500 episodes of action and live animated shows, including Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Digimon, Beetleborgs, and Spider-Man. If I'm being generous, I think what they paid for was totally undervalued. Like, they seriously got this for a steal. The deal would be finalized on October 24, 2001, and after only 3 years, Fox Family would cease operations and be relaunched as ABC Family. ABC Family rebranded itself as Freeform in 2016, yet it is still under the same ownership as it was back then. The only thing that hasn't changed is the 700 Club. That show would just never die. The only way they could probably cancel this show is if Disney decides to put a stake in the heart of Freeform. Could they really do it? Honestly, they could if they wanted to. As for the block that started it all, Fox Kids had completely fallen off by 2001. Following Disney's acquisition of Fox Family Worldwide, Fox Kids' weekday block was discontinued shortly after, leaving it as a Saturday morning block. Eventually, by September 2002, Fox Kids was discontinued and replaced with the Fox Box, which was created as a joint effort between News Corp and 4Kids Television. A match made in heaven.
Don't move a muscle or we'll shoot you with our invisible guns. I'm too rich to die.
Overall, the rise and fall of Fox Family Worldwide is a bizarre one at that. At first, it seemed like the partnership between News Corp and Saban was going great, but it just seems that the moment they tried to jump to cable, they had completely lost their grip on control. To give you the TLDR, they alienated their core audience of the original Family Channel while trying to attract a new audience. Not to mention, they expanded too quickly by adding more networks no one wanted, and to top it all off, they were stuck with a show that did not fit the network completely. I've always wondered why Fox doesn't dabble in expanding their cable lineup, but now it's clear why. I just wasn't old enough to witness it. With Disney now in control of all the assets, they were able to do what Fox Family Worldwide couldn't. While ABC is still freeform, they still do their annual events of Halloween and Christmas programs, which bring in strong ratings. And while not connected, Disney Channel and Disney XD in some essence does follow the footprint of what Boys and Girls Channel wanted to do in the first place, by assigning a gender to each network but keep it inclusive. Unfortunately, both channels have seen better days.
You are watching Nick Gas.
Just like that one dying kid you knew in 2nd grade, this channel just died so young. Nickelodeon Games and Sports, or Nick Gas for short, was a channel dedicated entirely to high-energy game shows from Nickelodeon's archive, and was their answer to channels like Game Show Network or ESPN, but for kids. What made the channel fun at the time was that it was a commercial-free, 24/7 destination to watch iconic shows like Legends of the Hidden Temple, Guts, and Double Dare. Unfortunately, the channel would be discontinued after less than a decade. But before I get ahead of myself, let's deep dive into Nick Gas's rise and fall, exploring its golden era, its decline, and what ultimately led to its shutdown. Also, just a little shout out for these 2 videos I made, go check them out, they're great. Nickelodeon Games and Sports would first be announced on November 3rd, 1998, following extensive research into children's interest in sports and competition. After months of development, the channel officially launched on March 1st, 1999. Nick Gas would have Olympic figure skater Tara Lipinski as sort of a spokesperson and correspondent at launch. This was following her massive win at the 1998 Olympics where she captured the gold medal, so good way to promote the network. Although I do have to admit, it feels a bit misleading to advertise a game show channel with not that much of a sports vibe, but I digress. Nick Gas primarily aired Nickelodeon's archival library of game shows, totaling around 1,000 hours of content. Some of its most popular shows included Double Dare, Nickelodeon Guts, Figure It Out, Wild and Crazy Kids, Sports Theater with Shaquille O'Neal, alongside many other classics. Some of the more unique shows on Gas included Renford Rejects, a British series on Nickelodeon UK, and even Make the Grade, a show that hasn't aired on Nickelodeon since 1991, so a bit of a rare gem here. Rather than airing traditional commercials, Nick Gas filled its ad break with short-form interstitial content powered by partnerships and various sports organizations. These segments featured exclusive game coverage, behind-the-scenes content, athlete interviews, and other sports-related content. These interstitial segments were named Heroes of the Game, Gas Grill, Trade Tricks, Timeout, Ski Drill, the MLS Play of the Week, Global Gas, Home Turf Highlights, and Fast Break. Nick Gas had also introduced various themed programming blocks over the years, such as Camp Gas, Heads Up, Wildcard, Family Fuel, and Extreme Gas, but many of these will be phased out by 2002. In addition to game shows, the network also aired competition-focused series such as Salute Your Shorts, Speed Racer X, and Rocket Power. While it wasn't traditional sports programming, they did align with the action-driven theme Nick Gas aimed to deliver. By spring of 2003, Nick Gas made a move towards original content, launching other shows like Game Farm, Play to Z, Splash TV, and even an early version of BattleBots named Robot Wars. These efforts to introduce new and original programming were a testament to the channel's commitment to providing fresh and exciting entertainment. However, some of these original programs were short-lived and were removed from the network's schedule due to low ratings, an issue the network has been dealing with since launch. As time went on, Nick Gas made significant efforts to keep the channel exciting and worth watching, but despite all these attempts, ratings were never on the same level as the main Nickelodeon channel or even Nicktoons. On October 31st, 2005, Nickelodeon will ultimately give up on the channel and transition it to just an automatic scheduling format, reducing its lineup to just 7 core shows. Guts, Legend of the Hidden Temple, Figure It Out, Get the Picture, Double Dare, Nick Arcade, and Finders Keepers. By September 2006, Finders Keepers was removed, leaving only 6 shows on the network. Which I will add that as the years progressed, the prizes and advertisements seen on the show really started to make the channel extremely dated by its final year. I mean, for God's sakes, they still have blinks on their bumpers. Eventually, in August 2007, Viacom announced plans to discontinue Nick Gas by the end of the year. The channel was set to be replaced with a full-time version of The N, a teen-focused programming block that had originally aired on Noggin since 2002. On December 31st, 2007 at 6 AM Eastern Time, Nick Gas officially signed off, airing its final episode of Figure It Out. Following the episode, 2 brief bumpers played before the transition was abruptly interrupted by the End's programming feed, which was airing Instant Star at the time. The End continued to air on the network until 2009 when it was rebranded to Teen Nick as part of Nickelodeon's massive rebrand. Despite its official closure, Nick Gas remained available on Dish Network for almost a year and a half due to an undisclosed technical difficulty. This delay meant that Dish Network customers still had access to Nick Gas for an extended period, even as Noggin and the End continued their standard daily schedule. However, on April 2009, Dish Network announced that Nick Gas would be removed the following day. The final moments of Nick Gas aired at 3:30 AM, concluding with an episode of Legends of the Hidden Temple, before transitioning mid-program to Adult Swim's Pacific feed, marking the end for one of Nickelodeon's forgotten sister channels. It wasn't until November 2019 when Viacom introduced several new channels to its Pluto TV streaming service. One of these new programs was called Nick Games, a spiritual successor to the defunct Nick Gas. The channel brought back many Nickelodeon classic game shows, alongside recent competition and reality-based programs produced after Nick Gas ceased operations. However, this version of Nick Games was short-lived and ended its run on August 18, 2020. As of 2024, a similarly themed channel called No Parents Allowed is available, featuring a mixture of Nickelodeon and non-Nickelodeon content. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda think this channel was doomed from the start. As someone who's already covered the history of Nickelodeon as a brand, by the time the channel launched, Nickelodeon had kinda already stopped mass-producing game shows at this time. And even the place where most of Gas's shows were produced, Nickelodeon Studios Orlando, had closed its doors in 2005. So yeah, it just feels like this came out at the wrong time. Ending off this video is a topic that many of you have been asking me to cover since the very beginning of this series, Qubo. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm only familiar with Qubo's early history when it aired on Telemundo out of all places. This was like before my family got DirecTV, so this and PBS is what I watched most of the time. After that, I just never looked back. Which is probably why Saturday morning cartoons are no longer a thing. Sorry, Gen Alpha. By the mid-2000s, Saturday morning blocks were on their way out, mainly due to new FCC regulations that effectively killed the concept. By September 2006, the Federal Communications Commission implemented stricter regulations regarding children's programming. Although this has been a pain in the ass in broadcasters' side since the 1990s, this was at the point of no return. Broadcasters were required to air at least 3 hours of educational content per week, which essentially killed Saturday morning blocks overnight. While some managed to hold on for a bit longer, it wasn't long until they all disappeared.
Hey, who left this bowl of onions here?
But one day, Ion Media Networks, NBC Universal, Crowers Entertainment, Scholastic, and Classic Media announced a joint venture to launch a new children's entertainment brand aimed at providing quality entertainment children's program in a safe environment. If you haven't heard of the name already, I'm talking about Qubo. Qubo launched on September 9th, 2006 on both NBC and Telemundo, replacing their previous blocks Discovery Kids on NBC and Telemundo Kids. It also launched on September 15th on Independent Television, which was renamed to Ion TV just 4 months later. Unlike other Saturday morning blocks, Qubo was more compliant with the Children's Television Act as it focused on fostering growth in children rather than just shoving commercials and cartoon violence at them, offering more lighthearted content such as VeggieTales, Me and Me, 3-2-1 Penguins, and The Magic School Bus. These programs were not only entertaining for children, but they also included valuable lessons. If that sounds like PBS Kids to you, well, yeah, it kinda is. Qubo would be well received at launch, save for the religious censorship on VeggieTales.
You'd think so, wouldn't ya?
But over time, the brand was recognized by both kids and adults. In January 2007, Qubo expanded beyond the Saturday morning block and became a full-fledged 24/7 channel, launching on Ion Media Network's terrestrial stations. It eventually expanded its syndicated programs, most notably airing Sitting Ducks, Postman Pat, Dragon, Maisie, and many more. In 2010, Qubo got creative with its lineup by introducing the Night Owl Block, a late-night segment that aired at midnight and targeted adults who grew up watching cartoons from Filmation Productions. This included Brave Star, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, She-Ra, Princess of Power, and Ghostbusters. It was a different direction from the usual programming, but a welcoming one nonetheless. At its core, Qubo proved that this type of programming, if presented correctly, can be both entertaining and educational. However, while Qubo's rise was pretty fast, its downfall happened just as quickly. On January 28, 2011, Comcast acquired a majority stake in NBC Universal for $13.8 billion, effectively changing Qubo's course into a downward spiral. As I've said it before, corporate shakeups, especially of this magnitude, are bound to change things for better or for worse, and for Qubo, it was no exception. On March 28, 2012, it was announced that NBC and Telemundo would discontinue their Qubo blocks and replace them with NBC Kids and Mi Telemundo in July of that year, leaving ION and its affiliate channels as the only remaining ways to watch Qubo. NBC Kids and Mi Telemundo catered to a preschool audience, airing programs from PBS Kids Sprout, something I kinda just talked about earlier. Not only did Qubo lose its Saturday morning block, but it also lost access to shows licensed by NBC, including those made by Filmation. As a result, all the shows that made up the Night Owl block were removed and replaced with programs that typically aired during the day, effectively making the block obsolete. Following NBC's exit, Scholastic, Chorus, and Classic Media all pulled out of this venture, leaving ION Media as the sole owner of Qubo. While Qubo lost Scholastic's library, it continued to acquire broadcasting rights to Chorus Entertainment's catalog and expanded its lineup with content from other companies, including Splash Entertainment, Wildbrain, and Ninth Story Media Group, which acquired most of Scholastic's media distribution rights in 2019 anyway, so yeah, score 1 for Qubo, I guess. Although Qubo maintained its mission to bring safe quality content to kids, it was always far behind in the children's TV market. In 2015, Qubo on ION was rebranded to Qubo's Kids Corner and was relegated to a 3-hour Sunday morning block, which later changed to weekday mornings, airing for just 1 hour on Wednesdays through Fridays. It was done so ION could meet the requirement of 3 hours of weekly educational programming.
Would you get out of here?
As for the 24-hour channel, it became a 19-hour channel in 2019 when the Night Owl block was replaced with 5 hours of infomercials. Presumably this was done so that ION TV could reduce paid programming on its main schedule, effectively making Qubo a dumping ground. In September 2020, Qubo expanded to ION Plus, but rather than just an expansion, this was just an obligation to meet educational requirements.
Hey!
However, just a few days after this move, on September 24th, 2020, it was announced that the EW Scripps Company had agreed to purchase ION Media for $2.65 billion. Once the deal was finalized in January 2021, Scripps decided to shut down Qubo, and on February 28th, 2021, Qubo finally ceased operations, with no grand send-off. Many were just shocked and confused, wondering how something that seemed so promising could just disappear. The reason behind its closure were a combination of factors: a decline in viewership, changes in the media landscape, and a rapid rise of streaming platforms that offered more variety, more choices, and ironically, more educational content. By the time Qubo launched, the internet was already booming, and instead of investing in an online platform, they chose to create a Saturday morning programming block, a fading medium that had no future potential. These decisions limited Qubo's growth and its ability to grow a new audience. Additionally, PBS Kids was already offering children's programming and was funded by the government and several foundations, leaving little room for new competitors. Ultimately, it was Qubo's inability to evolve in the face of the digital revolution that led to its downfall. Its closure serves as a cautionary tale on how even some of the most promising channels can fail. Despite its quick rise and fall, Qubo left a lasting legacy in children's television. For many kids, Qubo was their first introduction to educational programming, setting the standard for what children's media could be. And now it's just sad how the block left without a proper farewell. Oh yeah, we should probably talk about that video. On February 27, 2021, shortly before Qubo's shutdown, YouTuber SplatKid802 uploaded a video that allegedly captured Qubo's final moments on air. The video will start off as normal, showing their usual bumpers, but then it will cut to a dark red background featuring Qubo characters from the past and present, with text on the bottom reading "Save Qubo now," alongside a phone number. At the top, scrolling text urged viewers to help save the network, warning that it will shut down at 11:59 p.m. unless $2,500 is raised. Then, things start to get bizarre. One by one, the characters' heads were getting blown off execution style. Once the timer hit 0 and all the characters were gone, more text appeared, blaming the viewers for not saving the network, ending off with the message, 2006 to 2021, thanks for nothing. When this video came out, many claimed to have seen this live, and I kinda thought it was real, but as bizarre as it was, this was obviously fake. Still, it was a crazy way to get people talking about Qubo's demise. Imagine watching Qubo on the final day and just watching your favorite characters like, "Oh my god, please no, don't kill me!"
Seatbelts, everyone!
And we...
Yeah, that would be totally traumatizing for millions of kids. Well, there you have it guys, that was episode 7 of Discontinued Nostalgia. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I did. It was really fun looking back at so many nostalgic channels, but at the same time, it was kind of depressing. With the current state of cable, things really aren't looking so great. I think the only way of making cable relevant again is if they like simulcast cable channels on streaming services. It'll probably destroy the cable companies overnight, but hey, at least Cartoon Network won't be in the state it currently is. Anyways, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe, as we are less than 3,000 subs away from hitting 100,000 subscribers. It would mean the world if we could hit that goal soon, guys, but yeah, I just gotta learn to wait. Anyways, my name is Luis, and I am out.